Hey people, it's me, Anja. My pronouns all she and her, and welcome back to my channel for a new video. But before I get into the books, I just wanted to quickly remind everyone what's been happening in Palestine, since Palestine is part of Asia, and it applies to this video, and also just in general. What's been happening in Palestine is so diabolical and so heartbreaking, and it truly hurts me that, like, the lack of media attention on it, because like so many people are suffering, and I understand that like as an American citizen I might be complicit in many things that the American government is funding, but it's important to recognize, in my opinion, how the government can be corrupt in the ways in which the government endorses certain things that, in my opinion, they should not be endorsing, because I think that there should be an immediate ceasefire in Palestine, in a ceasefire that nobody violates. And the numbers of like people dying every day is so sad to me, and it should be sad for everybody else as well. God forbid I have empathy for other people. And I feel like I've said this before, so I don't want to sound like a broken record or whatever, but I know that I have new subscribers. So also, I just want to make my stance clear that I'm pro-Palestine. I will always be pro-Palestine. And I think that what's been happening lately in Palestine is absolutely awful, and it's so heartbreaking. And yeah, there's that. But yeah, happy AAPI month for everyone celebrating. So with that said, I hope that this video helps diversify your bookshelf. And the first book on this list is called Midnight with You. This story is a YA contemporary following a Filipino main character who is navigating family trauma and the idea that that family trauma can prevent her from happiness, which I think is such a good idea to navigate, because that's definitely an idea that I've had myself in terms of my personal life. But anyway, this book was so good. I loved the romance and the characters and the plot and literally every single element about it. The writing is so good. This book is so underrated. I think that it's really excellent in terms of the people featured, because they feel like real people and they feel like age appropriate and everything. Like, this book was so good. I just really enjoyed it from the beginning to the end. So anyway, with that said, I would definitely highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called While You Were Dreaming. This story is a YA contemporary following an Indian main character who is navigating undocumented immigration against the backdrop of viral online fame, which I think is a very interesting juxtaposition, because one of those things puts you in the limelight, like in the spotlight, and one of those things doesn't, because like her viral online fame is also anonymous. Does that make any sense? Anyway, this book was so good, and it was so well done. I don't know if anything I've said so far really makes any sense, but I loved the characters and the plot and the writing and the romance, and everything about it was so good and so riveting, and I just loved it so much. Like, I'm really excited in the chance that the author will write more books in the future, because their writing is so addictive and it's so well done. And I just really enjoyed like the pacing and everything about it. So anyway, with that said, I would definitely highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called Kirby's Lessons for Falling in Love. This story is a YA contemporary graphic novel following a young queer Chinese-American main character who is navigating queerness as well as family expectations. This story is absolutely so excellent, and it's so well done. First of all, as I've mentioned earlier in previous videos, I love reading queer coming-of-age stories, especially in graphic novel format, because like the story itself is so well done and so well written. I love the writing, the pacing, the characters, the sapphic romance. Like, it's all so good. This book is absolutely so excellent, and it deserves all the hype and so much more. Actually, I don't actually know if this book has received any hype at all, honestly, because like, I don't know, I don't really exist, I feel like, in a lot of book spaces, because I promote so many books at once and I read so many underrated books that I don't really know like which books are considered popular right now. But anyway, I digress. This book is absolutely so good and it's so awesome. So with that said, I would definitely highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called Love Points to You. This story is a YA contemporary following a sapphic asexual main character who is pursuing her alt dreams while also finding love elsewhere. This story is absolutely so good and it's so wholesome and it's so awesome. First of all, I loved the queer representation so much. The main character is asexual as well as bisexual. Second of all, I loved her alt elements. I love reading about artists as a writer myself. Second of all, or third of all, the romance is so cute and it's so well paced and so well developed. I loved the family dynamics. Everything about this story made so much sense to me, and I love it when a character's motivations and emotions make sense and are justified, even if their actions aren't necessarily, because it means that I can understand them, even if I don't necessarily agree with what they're doing. I don't know, I digress. Basically, this book was so good. The characters are so well developed and so distinct. And I truly, really enjoyed this book from the beginning to the end. So with that said, I would definitely highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called Solving for the Unknown. This story is a YA contemporary that is technically a companion novel to a pho love story, which I read a few years ago, but it definitely means that I had lower expectations for this book, and I absolutely loved it. Basically, this book is a YA contemporary following two Vietnamese American main characters who are college freshmen, and they are currently navigating family expectations and falling in love. This story was so good. First of all, I've always gravitated towards YA contemporaries that have Vietnamese American main characters as someone who's half Vietnamese and also half Jamaican, by the way. But anyway, the representation was so good and it was so well done. The two main characters are both so well developed and so distinct. I love their romance so much because it's so well paced and so cute and so adorable, and it literally had me giggling and kicking my feet because I was so giddy watching them fall in love with each other. I love the friendships, I love the family dynamics, I love literally every single element of this book. It is so good. This book is so well written, and frankly, in my opinion, it's better than a pho love story. So anyway, with that said, I would definitely highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called Messy Perfect. This story is a YA contemporary following a sapphic South Asian main character who starts an underground GSA at her conservative Catholic school. This story is absolutely so fantastic and it's so good. First of all, I loved the intersectionality of religion and queerness. I think that relationship is so incredibly important and it's so timely and it's so relevant. Second of all, I loved the characters. I loved the family dynamics. Her relationship with her sister, for example, was so cute and so wholesome. The queer romance was so awesome and so well paced and just so good. I loved the friendships. Everything about this story is so well developed and it's so well paced and it's just so good. Literally, this book is so underrated, and I know that I say that all the time because I really don't read a lot of really popular books, and I mentioned earlier that I don't even know what books are even considered popular. But anyway, I digress. I think this book is excellent, and it's so important, and it's so timely, and it's just so well written. So anyway, with that said, I would definitely highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called Rainbow Fair. This story is a middle-grade contemporary following a young Chinese Muslim main character who is navigating friendship drama, family expectations, and intersectionality. I think that intersectionality is so incredibly important to discuss at a middle grade level, just because so many young people out there are probably experiencing it and they don't know how to label it. But maybe I'm just speaking for myself, because when I was younger, I was navigating with my intersectionalized identity and I didn't know how to label it at all, and I felt like nobody around me understood me either. So I love reading middle grade stories because I feel like I'm filling a void that my younger self needed. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes any sense. But anyway, this book was so good, and I loved the story, the characters, the plot, the family dynamics, the representation, the friendships. Everything about this book was so well written and so well paced. I just really, really enjoyed every single second of it. So anyway, with that said, I would definitely highly, highly recommend it. The last book on this list, and certainly not the least, is called The Queen Bees of Tybee County. This story is a middle-aged contemporary following a young, queer Chinese-American main character as he's navigating his love for the drag community as well as his love for himself and his own queer identity. This story is absolutely so fantastic and it's so good. It's definitely one of my favorite middle-grade books that I've read this year, which says a lot, I think, because I don't know how many middle grade books I've read this year, but I've read a lot. So anyway, this book was so good. I loved the writing and the pacing and the characters and the friendships and the family dynamics. I love it all. I think this book is excellent. I think this book serves as like a love letter to the drag community, to the queer community, to literally everyone, to allies. This book is excellent and it's so good. I think it's so excellent and it's so wholesome, and I truly understand and empathize with the characters because I love them dearly as if they were real people. But anyway, overall, I would definitely highly, highly recommend this book. So in conclusion, I have a bad feeling that this video might get shadow banned or whatever the YouTube equivalent is just because I mentioned Palestine in the introduction, but I think that it's so important to really talk about what's been happening lately in Palestine. And like I said earlier, I know that I'm probably complicit in the American government because I'm an American citizen, but God forbid, I think that sometimes the government does not have the best interests for all of its citizens. God forbid that sometimes I think that what the government is endorsing is not necessarily a good thing. Does that make any sense? Anyway, the point is, what's been happening in Palestine is so sad and it's so diabolical and it's so heartbreaking. And I think that more people should be aware of what's happening. So I have linked some resources in the description box below in case you are interested in learning Palestinian history or anything like that. So anyway, you should be aware of what's happening, not just now, but just in general. So yeah. Anyway, in conclusion, I hope this video helped diversify your bookshelf, and if you enjoyed it, please don't hesitate to give it a big thumbs up. Comment down below the tulip emoji if you made it all the way to the end of the video. Thanks for watching, subscribe to my channel if you're new, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!